What about where can't control the outcome? So the expectation is that if you suffer now, the outcome will be better. How do you help clients who haven't had that experience where they suffer and then there's no reward? So it looks to them like suffering is always suffering. So whether it's loss or but it's like your example of pregnancy, so if it was, working with a woman who had endured and then lost her baby, the world starts to feel very unjust.
Thank you. Okay. Good question. Here's my answer. I was thinking about it a while, okay? Tough question, eh? You know what? Sometimes you sacrifice, but at the end you got nothing. Have you experienced that? Okay. Fear not. It's worth it. You know why? The process of suffering, the journey of struggling is its own reward. Think about that. Yeah. If you are struggling to do something worthwhile, even if you're not able to achieve the goal, but the fact that you invest time and energy to struggle to it, that makes life worth living. Remember, I earlier said life is a struggle. If you struggle for something worthwhile, that makes life meaningful. Life is just peace and enjoyment, but you have to struggle to make life meaningful, right? Struggle for something worthwhile. So make sure that you're struggling for something worthwhile. Even when you're disappointed, but you already enjoy the process, and you can start again. So that's the whole thing. It's intrinsic, that anything that's meaningful is intrinsic. If you get the result, it's bonus. If you don't get a result, it's still not wasted, okay? Franco started the concept of tragic optimism, okay? Now, when you study American psychology, usually they talk about importance of optimism. That means expecting the outcome will be good. Okay. That means hope good things will happen to you. Okay. But Franco said that sometimes not only good things happen to you, bad things also happen to you. Do you remember the cup, when it's half full, half empty? Optimists say what? Half full. Franco say you're wrong. Franco will agree with me, saying that the cup is half empty and it's going to be completely empty. Completely empty. Optimism means what? But I believe that it can be refilled. So that's a key, right? You believe that the cup had to be half empty because people continue to drink, eventually be empty. But hope lies in the fact that it can always be refilled. Okay. Now, while he was in concentration camp, people waiting, the life is very hard, and people waiting for their time to be assigned to the gas chamber to die. So what kind of hope can you have? So in that situation, Frank say that like, we can still have tragic optimism. We still can have meaning. We can still have hope. We can still go to face our death with a song in our heart, with a prayer on our lips. We can still live a meaningful life right to the last breath. So that's how he got this tragic optimism got him through the dark days in the death chamber. So now I try to test the idea in experiment, in studies. I say, what are the elements of tragic optimism? So actually there are 5 elements. The first element is acceptance. The situation is bad, very bad. People are going to die in the camp. Or believe. But I believe that even in the bad situation, you can still discover meaning. You can still live a meaningful life. He think about one day if he get out, he'll be able to write a book on logotherapy. He's able to meet his wife. So you can still have hope, have meaning. Belief. A commitment. The third part is what? Courage, right? You face each day with courage. Don't let death. You're not afraid of death. Then death is not a problem anymore. So, for example, I can die anytime. I say, I'm old enough to die. I'm happy. I'm happy to die preaching, die writing. I'm not afraid of death. I'm doing what I like. So you have courage to face death. Again, you remember inoculation? You have inoculate courage, then you're not afraid of death. You're not afraid of stress. That's part of life. Right? Inoculation, right? So another element is that your courage comes from faith. A faith that what I do is meaningful. And also the last part is altruism, that you're able to connect with other people. You're able helping other people to find meaning in the system. He feels fulfilled that he is able to help other people to find a sense of meaning, so they will not believe, they don't have to live in fear. So that gives him tragic optimism, gives them optimism by having courage, having faith, having belief. You can get rid from belief, okay? And from reaching out to other people, helping other people. So any question about that? Yeah, I go back to it. Another important essential competence is acceptance. So acceptance is also important for acts, acceptance and commitment, right? Acceptance, okay? Accepting life as it is and embracing the dark side, embracing the present reality, and accepting one's vulnerability, and even accepting one's unacceptable aspects, one's own shadow and inevitable demise. In the grieving process, accepting loss is the first part, the big part. So in working with grief counselors, helping people how to accept losses is the most difficult lesson. Here's another paradox. People do not want to die, right? Are you afraid of death? It's only natural that people are afraid of death. The paradox is that you can really find meaning if you find something that's worth dying for. if you have not found someone or something that you value more than your life, that you're willing to sacrifice yourself for that thing or that person, then you haven't really discovered your meaning in life. Does that make sense to you? So people like to talk about meaning in life. Oh, you do this, do that, all little simple things. But the real test is that, have you found something that worth sacrifice, that's worth giving up your life for? So that's a test. Once you find something that's worth dying for, then you overcome death. So there's a study several years ago. They interviewed many well-known scientists and artists. The finding is this. The finding is that the successful, really, really well-known artists or scientists, their biggest fear is not death. The biggest fear is that they die before they complete their work. See, now I'm not ready to die yet because I'm still working on my books, not finished yet. When I finish my book, then I drop dead. Not happy. Because I'm still working on my book, I say, if I die, who will finish it for me? You know? So I'll find something worth dying for, right? So it's a paradox again, right? You want to overcome death? Do you have something that's worth dying for? You can accomplish more dying than living. Sorry that I'm mentioning Jesus. Jesus accomplished more on the cross back in 30 years. You also can accomplish more so by the way you die, for what you die. So that can be your biggest accomplishment.